Thank you for taking the time to watch this instructional video on how to install the Supersprings, the self-adjusting suspension stabilizer.
Hi, I'm here today to talk to you about the Superspring load stabilizing system. Now, have you ever noticed when you put a load in the back of a ute that the vehicle drops down? It sags right down at the back. What that actually does as you're driving it, it obviously makes the car sort of wobble down the road. As you turn, the car wants to almost tip over. Changes your braking performance. Obviously, when you hit the brakes, the car's not going to stop as well. It also means your steering is not as responsive, I guess, than it would normally be. So the way we combat that is by fitting a load leveling spring into the back of the vehicle. So with the leaf spring, we add another leaf effectively above that, and that's called a Superspring. We'll show you now how that is installed onto this vehicle. This is a Falcon Ute. There is a range of these available for a whole range of different utilities and other sort of vehicles. Very, very beneficial in towing situations as well. So if you're towing a caravan, a boat, or just carrying any sort of load in the back of the ute, very well worth looking at. So we'll go through the steps now. Now, what I want to show you here is that when we add 450 kilos to the back of this vehicle, how much the car actually drops down in standard configuration. Then we'll unload it again, put the Super Springs in, load it again, and then show you the difference between before and after and what it's like and how much more beneficial the load is going to be with the Super Springs fitted. So, first up, let's measure this. From the bottom of the rim to the bottom of the wheel arch, we're at 660 millimeters. So now we'll load the 450 in the back. Okay, each of these winches total up to about 450 kilos. So I'm going to throw these in the back now, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've done that now. 450 kilos. Clearly I'm not fit enough. Okay, so now let's measure this again. We're now down to 615. So it's dropped 45 mil by adding 450 kilos to the back. Always make sure if you're going to be doing any work under the vehicle, use some good jack stands and also chock the front wheels as well. There's a couple of important things to remember when installing a Superspring kit into a vehicle. The first of them is you want to make sure that nothing's going to foul the Superspring across the leaf spring that's already in the vehicle. You can see here there's actually a wire that runs down. It's attached to the factory fitted leaf spring. So we just need to move that and put that into a safer mounting position, which is very simple to do. Now we've got the Superspring in position, and you want to make sure that you've got this positioned evenly so you've got an even gap at the front and the rear pickup points. Then we have a rubber block here that actually goes over the top of the diff and sits between the diff and the Superspring and acts as a block, a rubber block to support that. The next step is to install the rolling bush and the bolt through the shackle at each end, making sure to tighten up only the bottom section of the shackle bolt, not the top section. That needs to remain loose so that can flip around back and forth, which means that the spring can effectively move just a little bit up and down the leaf spring as is required. So I'll put these in place now. So now the Superspring is loose, sitting in position at the moment. We can simply move the front end down. You can see on this shackle there's two bolt locations, a lower location and an upper location. You always want to fit it in the lower location to start with. That's because that's the standard fitment. If you want to increase the load capacity, you can then move it to the higher setting by moving the bolt and bush up into the higher setting. We're going to put it in the lower one here, very simply, with the bolt going from the inside of the car, to the outside. Put the nut in place, and then we'll just do that up with a spanner. Now you only want to tighten up the lower section here, not the upper section. The reason for that is you want this bottom section to be able to have a little bit of play so that it moves up and down the leaf spring of the vehicle. Once you've assembled the front mount, you need to then move to the rear mount of the Superspring. So get the G-clamp in place and wind that until you can get the shackle over the top of the standard spring, being sure that as you do it, the bracket doesn't foul on anything on the way through. So you can see that's just now coming past. And we're now down to where we needed it to be. So we simply get our pin and our bush and assemble that as we did with the front one. Again, it's always wise to go with the bolt from the inside to the outside. Put the nut in place. Once again, only tighten the lower section here, not the top section, because this needs to have some play in it. So I'll just do that one up now and then we can check the measurement. Okay, job's done. We're just going to measure this up now from the bottom of the rim to the bottom of the wheel arch, and we're now at 645 millimeters. So that has given us a much greater rear ride height than previously, where the car was a lot lower. Now, without the Super Spring, we were 35 mil lower than where this is now. So this is going to make sure that the vehicle is much more stable under steering, braking, and just general driving. That whole wallowing thing down the road will no longer take place because the vehicle is closer to its original setting as far as ride height is concerned. Now, we've done this by fitting a standard Super Spring, which is a 9 mil Super Spring. So when I'm talking 9 mil, I'm talking the thickness of the metal, the steel along here. So you can actually improve that again if you wanted to by going to the heavy duty Super Spring, which is a 10 mil Super Spring. And that would actually give you probably another 15 mil in ride height as well, which again is even back closer to the original setting. So this is definitely a good way, an economical way of ensuring that your vehicle is much more stable under load carrying situations. Super Springs, check them out.
Thanks for watching and safe driving.